Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome back to episode 4 of Lovely Podcast. This week has been a whirlwind. So much work, back-to-back meetings, and juggling all the little tasks that keep life interesting. But there was a highlight that brightened it all. Meeting up with some old friends and reminiscing about the good old days. And how could I forget? Yesterday was incredible, with Juventus winning against Torino in the Derby della Mole. What a match. But now, it's time to settle in and pick up where we left off. We're diving into the third part of Fredrik's story, and I promise you won't want to miss this chapter. So, let's jump right in. I felt numb, my world crumbling around me. So, what happens now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Agent Thompson leaned forward. That depends on you, Leah. We believe you are an unwitting participant in their schemes. You have skills that could be valuable to us in bringing down this criminal network. We're offering you a choice. Help us or face the consequences of your involvement, however unintentional it may have been. I closed my eyes, trying to process everything. The thrill of the missions, the passion I'd shared with Fredrik, the sense of purpose I'd felt. Had it all been built on lies? When I opened my eyes again, I saw Agent Thompson watching me expectantly. I took a deep breath and made my decision. I'll help you, I said, my voice stronger now, but on one condition: I want to be the one to confront Fredrik. Agent Thompson nodded, a hint of approval in her eyes. Agreed. But be prepared, Leah. This won't be easy. The man you thought you knew doesn't exist. As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we start your real training. The door closed behind her, leaving me alone with my thoughts. As I lay back on the bed, my mind raced with questions and doubts. Who was the real Fredrik? Had any part of our relationship been genuine? And most importantly, was I ready for what lay ahead? The dangerous game of deception and betrayal I was about to enter would test me in ways I couldn't imagine. As exhaustion finally overtook me, one thought echoed in my mind. The next time I saw Fredrik, one of us would be walking away in handcuffs, and I was determined it wouldn't be me. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of someone entering the room. Agent Thompson was back, this time with a stack of folders in her arms. "Good morning, Leah," she said, placing the folders on the table beside my bed. "I hope you're feeling better today." I rubbed the sleep from my eyes and sat up, still feeling a bit groggy. "I'm okay. What's all this?" I gestured to the folders. "These are dossiers on the key members of the organisation Fredrik works for. I want you to familiarise yourself with them. It's crucial that you understand who you're dealing with." I opened the first folder and began to read. The names, faces, and backgrounds blurred together as I tried to grasp the scope of the criminal network Fredrik was a part of. It was overwhelming, but I knew I had to stay focused. Agent Thompson watched me for a moment before speaking again. "We'll start your training today. You'll need to be prepared for the mission ahead." I nodded, a sense of determination rising within me. "I'm ready. What do you need me to do?" She smiled slightly. "First, we need to test your physical and mental capabilities. Follow me." We left the room and walked down a long corridor, eventually arriving at a large, well-equipped training facility. Agent Thompson introduced me to a team of trainers who would be working with me over the next few days. The training was intense. I sparred with skilled fighters, ran through obstacle courses, and practiced various combat techniques. Each session left me exhausted, but also more confident in my abilities. During breaks, I studied the dossiers and memorized the details of each member of Fredrik's organisation. I knew that understanding their strengths and weaknesses would be crucial to our success. As the days turned into a week, I felt a transformation taking place within me. I was no longer just Leah, the adrenaline junkie and motorcycle enthusiast. I was becoming a trained operative, ready to take down a criminal network. One evening, after a particularly grueling training session, Agent Thompson approached me with a serious expression. "Leah, it's time for the next phase of our plan." I looked at her, my heart pounding with anticipation. "What is it?" "We need to set a trap for Fredrik. We need him to believe that you're still on his side, that you're still willing to work with him. Can you do that?" I took a deep breath, knowing that this would be the most challenging part of the mission. I had to deceive the man I thought I loved, the man who had deceived me. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "I can do it." Agent Thompson nodded, a glint of approval in her eyes. "Good. We'll create a scenario where you'll have to meet with Fredrik. You'll need to convince him that you're still loyal to him and the organisation." Over the next few days, we planned every detail of the operation. I memorised the cover story, practiced my responses, and prepared myself for the inevitable confrontation with Fredrik. The day of the meeting finally arrived. I stood in front of the mirror, checking my appearance one last time. I had to look convincing, like nothing had changed. Agent Thompson handed me a small earpiece. "We'll be monitoring the situation at all times. If anything goes wrong, we'll step in immediately. Trust your instincts, Leah. You can do this." With a nod, I took the earpiece and secured it in place. I was ready. I drove to the designated meeting spot, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. As I parked my motorcycle, I saw Fredrik standing there, waiting for me. He looked just as I remembered, and for a moment, I felt a pang of nostalgia. But then I remembered the truth. This was the man who had lied to me, who had used me for his own gain. I had to stay strong. As I approached him, he smiled, his eyes searching mine. "Leah, it's good to see you." I returned the smile, forcing myself to play the part. "It's good to see you too, Fredrik." He reached out and took my hand, pulling me closer. "I've missed you. How have you been?" I looked into his eyes, steeling myself for what was to come. "I've been thinking about you, about us. I want to be a part of your world, Fredrik. I want to help you." He smiled, a hint of relief in his eyes. "I'm glad to hear that. I need you, Leah. We have a big job coming up, and I want you by my side." I nodded, feeling a sense of triumph. The trap was set, and Fredrik had walked right into it. "Tell me about the job," I said, my voice steady. As he began to explain the details of the upcoming mission, I knew that the real challenge was just beginning. I had to gather as much information as possible without arousing suspicion. But as he spoke, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. Something in his tone, in the way he looked at me, made me wonder if he truly believed my act. And then, just as he was about to reveal a crucial piece of information, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression changed. "I have to take this," he said, stepping away. I watched him, my heart pounding as he spoke in hushed tones. When he returned, there was a look of concern on his face. "Leah," he said, his voice low, "we have to go. Now." I looked at him, feeling a sense of unease. What's going on? He took my hand, his grip tight. "Trust me, we have to leave." As we hurried away, I knew that the situation had taken an unexpected turn. The plan was in jeopardy, and I had to adapt quickly if I wanted to complete the mission. But even as the danger grew, I couldn't help but feel a thrill of excitement. This was what I had been training for, what I had been preparing for. And now, it was time to put my skills to the test. As we hurried away from the meeting spot, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. What was going on? Why did Fredrik suddenly need to leave? I tried to ask him, but he just shook his head and kept walking. We walked for several blocks, finally stopping at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. Fredrik pushed open the door and gestured for me to enter. I did, looking around at the dimly lit interior. The cafe was empty except for a single figure sitting in the corner. As we approached, the figure stood up, It was a woman, dressed in a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat. She looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place her. "Fredrik," she said, her voice low and husky, "I see you've brought the package." Fredrik nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "Yes, I have. Leah, this is Sophia. She's an associate of mine." I raised an eyebrow, feeling a sense of unease. What was going on? Who was this woman, and what did she want with me? Sophia smiled, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "Hello, Leah. It's nice to finally meet you. I've heard a lot about you." I felt a shiver run down my spine as she reached out and took my hand. Her grip was cold and firm, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. "What do you want from me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Sophia smiled again, her eyes never leaving mine. "Oh, Leah, I think you know exactly what I want. You see, Fredrik here has been playing a little game with you, a game of cat and mouse, if you will." I felt a surge of anger at her words, but I kept my cool. "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Sophia leaned in close, her breath cold against my ear. "I'm talking about the fact that Fredrik has been using you all along. He's been playing you like a fiddle, Leah, and now it's time for you to pay the price." I felt a chill run down my spine as Sophia's words hung in the air. What did she mean? What price was I supposed to pay? And then, just as I was about to ask, Fredrik spoke up. "Sophia, that's enough. We need to get out of here, now." Sophia smiled again, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "Oh, I don't think so, Fredrik. You see, I have a little surprise waiting for you. A surprise that will change everything." As she spoke, the door to the cafe burst open and a group of men rushed in. They were big and burly, with cruel-looking faces and menacing eyes. "Ah, perfect timing," Sophia said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I see our friends have arrived." I felt a surge of fear as the men closed in around us. What was going on? What did Sophia want with us? And then, just as I was about to find out, everything went black. As I came to, I found myself in a dimly lit room, my head throbbing with pain. I tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced me back onto the bed. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching. The door creaked open, and Sophia stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Leah, it's time to wake up," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. I rubbed my temples, trying to clear my head. "Where am I?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "You're in a safe house," Sophia replied. "Fredrik brought you here after the cafe. He believed it was the best place to keep you safe." I sat up again, more slowly this time, and looked around the room. It was sparse, with just a bed and a chair. There were no windows, and the only light came from a small bulb overhead. "Why did he bring me here?" I asked, trying to piece together the events. Sophia stepped closer. "Fredrik has been playing both sides, Leah. He's been working with us to take down the rogue organisation from the inside, but he couldn't reveal that to you without risking his cover." I felt a mix of relief and confusion. "So, he's not a traitor?" Sophia shook her head. "No, he's not, but he's in a dangerous position. The organisation suspects there's a mole, and they're closing in on him." I stood up determined. "I need to see him. I need to know the truth." Sophia nodded. "I'll arrange a meeting, but first you need to understand the full extent of what's at stake." She handed me a folder filled with documents and photographs. As I flipped through them, I saw evidence of the organisation's crimes and Fredrik's role in infiltrating them. "This is why he had to keep everything from you," Sophia explained. "He was protecting you and himself." I felt a surge of emotions, anger, relief, and a deep sense of betrayal, mixed with understanding. "I need to talk to him," I repeated. Sophia nodded. "I'll set it up, but be careful, Leah. The situation is volatile, and we can't trust everyone." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "I'm ready." The meeting was arranged for that evening, in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. I arrived early, my heart pounding with anticipation and fear. As I entered the warehouse, I saw Fredrik standing in the shadows. He looked tired but determined. "Leah," he said, his voice low. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to deceive you." I walked towards him, my eyes locked on his. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check. Fredrik took a step closer. "I was protecting you. I didn't want you to get hurt." I felt a lump in my throat as I looked at him. "Did you ever care for me, or was it all just part of the act?" Fredrik's eyes softened. "Leah, I care for you deeply. Everything between us was real, despite the circumstances." I searched his eyes, looking for any sign of deception, but all I saw was sincerity and a deep affection. Just as I was about to respond, we heard footsteps echoing through the warehouse. The lights flickered and then went out, plunging us into darkness. "What's happening?" I whispered, my heart racing. "It's them," Fredrik said, his voice urgent. "We have to get out of here now." In the darkness, I felt Fredrik's hand grasp mine and we began to run. The sound of footsteps and shouting grew louder behind us, but we didn't look back. We kept running, our hearts pounding in unison, until we finally reached the safety of a waiting car. As we sped away from the warehouse, I turned to Fredrik. "What now?" I asked. He looked at me, his eyes burning with determination. "We finish this. Together." And with that, our journey into the heart of danger began. A journey that would test our trust, our love, and our resolve to see justice served. The car sped through the city streets, Fredrik's hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes constantly checked the rearview mirror. "We can't go back to any of our usual safe houses," he said, breaking the silence. "They'll be watching all our known locations." I nodded, my mind racing. Sophia mentioned they suspect a mole. How close are they to figuring out your true identity? Fredrik's grip tightened, closer than I'd like. The last mission went sideways, and I'm certain they're suspicious. That's why tonight was so dangerous. We drove for another hour, taking multiple turns and back roads to ensure we weren't being followed. Finally, Fredrik pulled into a secluded garage hidden behind an abandoned industrial complex. "This is one of my emergency locations," he explained, killing the engine. "Only 3 people know about this place." The garage was small, but well-equipped. I saw a wall of carefully organised gear, tactical equipment, communication devices, and what looked like multiple sets of fake identification documents. "We need a plan," I said, moving closer to the wall of equipment. "They're not going to stop looking for us." Fredrik pulled out a laptop and began typing furiously. "I've got contacts who can help us, but we need solid evidence to bring down the entire organisation. Everything I've collected so far isn't enough to convince the authorities." I noticed a series of encrypted files on his screen. "What's in those?" "Financial records," he said. "Proof of money laundering, illegal arms trades, political manipulation. But the encryption is complex. We need a way to crack it completely." Suddenly, Fredrik's burner phone vibrated. He checked it, his expression changing. "It's Sophia. She says we've got a problem." I leaned in closer as he put the phone on speaker. "They know you're compromised," Sophia's voice crackled through the speaker. "A team is being assembled to hunt you down. You have less than 48 hours before they will have your complete location profile." Fredrik looked at me, a mix of determination and worry in his eyes. "We need to go on the offensive. No more running." I understood what he meant. We need to expose them before they can expose us. He nodded, pulling out a detailed map and starting to mark potential points of vulnerability in the organization's infrastructure. "We'll need to hit their communication networks, disrupt their financial channels, and create enough chaos to force their leadership into the open." As we began to plan, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of excitement. This was no longer just about survival. This was about taking down a dangerous criminal network that had operated in the shadows for years. "One question," I said, looking at Fredrik. "Do you trust me completely?" He looked up, meeting my gaze. "With my life?" he said without hesitation. Just then, an alert pinged on the computer. Someone was trying to trace the location of Fredrik's encrypted communication channel. "We've got company," Fredrik muttered. "Time to move." As we prepared to leave the garage, Fredrik's expression turned serious. "Leah, whatever happens, promise me you'll stay safe. If things go wrong, you need to run." I looked at him, determination in my eyes. "I'm not leaving you, Fredrik. We're in this together." He nodded, a hint of a smile on his lips. "Together, then." We gathered our gear and slipped out into the night. The plan was to infiltrate the organization's main communication hub, plant a virus to disrupt their networks, and extract the encrypted data we needed. The streets were quiet, but the tension was palpable. Every shadow seemed to hold a potential threat. As we approached the target building, Fredrik pulled me into an alley. "Stay here," he whispered. "I'll signal when it's clear." I watched as he disappeared into the darkness, my heart pounding. Minutes ticked by, like hours. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the alley. I jumped, my hand reaching for my weapon. Then, chaos erupted. Syrians wailed in the distance, and I heard shouts and the sound of running feet. I peeked out from the alley and saw police swarming the building. What was happening? I tried to contact Fredrik, but there was no response. Panic rose within me. I had to find him. I slipped out of the alley and moved towards the building, keeping to the shadows. As I neared the entrance, I saw Fredrik being led out in handcuffs. My heart sank. Had we been betrayed? I watched in disbelief as he was loaded into a police van. Just as I was about to step forward, a familiar voice stopped me. "Leah, don't." I turned to see Sophia, her eyes filled with sadness. "Fredrik wasn't who you thought he was," she said. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. Sophia sighed. "Fredrik was playing everyone. He was the mastermind behind the organization. He manipulated you, me, and everyone else. He's a psychopath, Leah. He used you to get what he wanted." I felt a wave of nausea. "No, that can't be true," I whispered. Sophia handed me a file. "It's all here. Evidence of his double cross, his manipulations. He was caught by the police because they finally had enough to arrest him." I opened the file, my hands trembling. As I read through the documents, the truth hit me like a punch to the gut. Fredrik had been lying to me all along. He had used me, manipulated my feelings, and made me an accomplice in his crimes. The hurt was unbearable. I had trusted him, loved him, and he had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the depth of his deception. Sophia put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Leah. You were just another pawn in his game." As the police van drove away, taking Fredrik with it, I felt a piece of my heart break. The man I had loved was a monster, and I had been blind to the truth. The night seemed darker than ever as I stood there, the weight of betrayal crushing me. I had fought for a cause that was a lie, and now I was left with nothing but shattered dreams and a heart full of pain. Today, we're breaking down an intense story of love, betrayal, and psychological manipulation that will leave you questioning everything you know about trust. Our story followed me, a woman who fell deeply in love with Fredrik, a man I believed was working undercover to take down a dangerous criminal organisation. Through high-stakes chases, secret meetings, and intense emotional moments, I put everything on the line for what I thought was justice and for love. But here's where things get dark, folks. In a shocking twist, Fredrik was revealed to be the mastermind behind everything. He wasn't the hero fighting against a criminal empire. He was the criminal empire. Every tender moment, every shared secret, every promise of love was carefully calculated manipulation by a skilled psychopath. What makes Fredrik such a fascinating villain is his ability to orchestrate multiple layers of deception. He didn't just fool me. He manipulated everyone, including Sophia and even parts of law enforcement. He created an elaborate web of lies where he played both the hero and the villain, using people's trust and emotions as weapons. The most chilling aspect? His complete lack of remorse. Fredrik wasn't just playing a role. He was enjoying the game, treating people's lives and emotions like pieces on a chessboard. Fredrik represents one of the most dangerous types of manipulators, those who can make you question your own reality. He didn't just break my heart, he shattered my entire worldview, leaving me to question every moment we shared and every truth I thought I knew. This story serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who make us feel the safest. What do you think about Fredrik's character? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with more story analyses on Lovely Podcast. Until next time, stay safe and trust wisely.